Welcome to the Virtual CPA Success Show for creative agencies, the go-to resource for agency owners looking to scale their business. Join us every week to stay ahead of the curve and position your agency for future success.
Okay, welcome everybody to today's show. I want to introduce both Russ and Doug. Both have been long-term friends for two and a half years so far.
Mm-hmm.
And let me go ahead and just throw it to, I'll throw it to you, Russ, first of all. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit about Pinnacle, about your company and all that kind of stuff. Then we'll just shoot it over to Doug.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Russ Sorrells, and my company's called Own Your Category. I have built, bought, and sold 6 businesses in my career. Some were amazing, some sucked. But now what I get to do is I get to help leaders build better businesses with my partner, Doug. We work with companies to help them essentially, just build better businesses. That's what we do.
Doug?
Yeah, Russ and I have been working together now for, I suppose, 3-4 months. We both joined Pinnacle Guide actually the same month in September a couple of years ago, and we had developed a friendship almost immediately, and we're talking every week. And
well, we have 7 daughters between us.
Yeah.
So
oh geez, related?
No, not related.
That's why
that would be really weird.
Yeah, right. That's why I have white hair and he has no hair. So,
hey, no.
Yeah, right.
I got the no hair
too. So, like Russ, I started and sold 8 businesses, I think, right around there. I had one really bad clinker in there, but obviously over those 45 years, you learn a lot, about business and about life. So when I retired, was looking for something to do and really felt that I had a base of knowledge, that I could guide and coach people. So my personal mission is really to inspire positive change in people's lives. That's what we do. So we do, strategy for clients. Our business model is a little bit differently in that we also, we have annual meetings and quarterlies, but we work with our clients in the months in between. We're doing coaching, guiding, helping with strategy, making sure people are staying on track, creating execution. Both of us also do individual coaching, one-on-one coaching, and we also do mastermind groups for second in command.
So, hey, Doug, first question, why did you decide to get out of the running your own business to coaching, kind of quasi running your own business again?
Well, we sold it. So I had nothing to do. And after starting so many businesses, I just didn't have it in me to start another one. It's a lot of work, regardless of what people may say. So there was a point in my life, with 11 grandkids, my wife was retired. And I had just found over time that I was able to connect with people in kind of a unique way. And Greg Cleary, who was one of the founders, I guess, the principal founder of Pinnacle, was actually our traction guide when we had our business. So I had known Greg, and he encouraged me to get involved. So it was really a great decision that I made at the time.
Yeah, how about you, Russ? Just kind of curious on why you decided to not jump right into another business and
at the time. So what I wanted to do was simplify. I had 3 brick and mortar businesses at the same time, and real estate and a lot of stuff going on. So my life was a hot mess. And I remembered when I was really good at something, because at that time when I had 3 brick and mortar businesses, 3 teenage daughters, as well as, the real estate stuff, I wasn't good at anything. And so I said, gosh, something's got to change. And I said, I'm just going to simplify and help people to simplify their lives as well, specifically, business leaders. And we tend to overcomplex it. We just make our life so complex. And so I wanted to reduce my own complexity. And in the process of doing a little soul searching, after I sold one of those businesses, we did a 5-week trip out west in an RV with the family, and it was amazing. But my mission was to figure out what I was going to be when I grew up. So on that next mountain I was going to climb, and one of my passions, similar to Doug, is I like to help people realize their full potential. And I just believe that we all want to reach our full potential, but we've not been taught how nor shown the way. And I've had some amazing mentors throughout my life that have poured into me and helped me to just really build an amazing life of friends and relationships and businesses and different things. And so I wanted to return the favor and start doing that for others that wanted to go on a journey of simplifying, but then also building something that matters. So
yeah, it's kind of interesting because my journey is very similar to what yours, except for I didn't have multiple companies. I ran a small marketing firm, sold Cutco cutlery. A lot of people probably already know that, but that was kind of the first venture. It was about 3 years doing that, running an
that's
office.
real sales right there.
That
Real
is big time sales. Yeah, big time sales.
Ton of respect for the Cutco dealer.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. And even those today. So if you ever get a knock on the door or get a call, invite them in. That you'll have a good time with them and help them out a little bit. But with that, it was one of those things I didn't know what I wanted to do. It was sales and marketing. I loved it. But I love the accounting side of it. And I'd say accounting side of that, you're kind of foolish before you can go to college. Accounting's numbers and stuff like that. I was really good with numbers. And so when I jumped into it, it was like, well, what did I want to do? I wanted to do something in the stock market, something investing, which again, that wasn't accounting. Didn't know that at the time. Figured out pretty quickly that was actually finance. And so there was a difference between it. So as you're a young person trying to figure it out, you have to kind of figure your way. And I knew I didn't want to work in a big city. That was a big drawback from finance, because at that point it was, stock market. You had to go and, work on the floor type of thing. And so it was one of those things that when I jumped into the accounting world, I thought this is perfectly it, because if it doesn't work out, I got to fall back. An accountant can really do anything, is what I thought, and realized quickly public accounting wasn't for me. The hours wasn't for me there. I realized also quickly, and I say quickly, it took me 3 to 4 years working in corporate world to realize that wasn't it for me either. It was just the redundancy thing. And so when I started the CPA firm, back 20 years ago, I wanted to do it completely different. So in your journeys, it sounds like you did your thing. Now you're kind of helping other people out. I wanted to do the exact same thing. I thought, hey, how can I take what I've learned in public accounting, what I've learned in the corporate world, and help all these small businesses out? And so a very similar structure, very similar motivation that I had going into it. It really opened my eyes to all the need and the help that these small business owners really need.
I joke that it's selfish, with it. It's selfish because it's so enjoyable when you have an opportunity, when you see the light bulb go off, or you look back on the last year and the transformation that has happened as you're walking alongside these leaders and transforming their businesses and really, opening their eyes. When you're in the ditch, it's really difficult to see outside the ditch and to stop digging in some cases and really let's climb out of this thing and figure out, are we digging the right hole or in the right spot? And it's really rewarding.
What have you guys seen like the biggest, just over this last year, what's the biggest issue that a lot of these businesses have been facing? Has it been internal, external, combination of both?
That's a great question, Jody. In July of 22, with my clients before Russ and I joined, I suspected there was going to be, a downturn in the economy. So we started preparing our clients. What does that look like? Our strategy, evolved around that. I mean, in every single company, people's the number one issue. It's just, it relates to everything, right? So, one of the things we try and do is get that leadership team, right people, right seats is really the first thing you have to do. It's not that you can't make progress without that, but it's slower, right? So that's a big deal. Finances, obviously talking to you is another huge category. I think it never ceases to surprise Russ and I. People don't have budgets. They're not doing variance reports. They don't know cash flow. And, I'm a finance guy. So, those things were critical to me. And I don't know how you could manage a business without understanding, the P&L and the balance sheet. But
I tell you how. You just keep digging. That's how.
Well, right. Yeah, right. Digging, baby. I'm faster.
Come on, we got to get a little more, a little deeper. Right. Well, one more job. Right. That's how you do it.
Well, and the other thing that happens, we've learned over time is that, I think without exception, every client of mine is a privately held company except for one. But, the thing that happens is we're working with, and we've got Excuse me. We got over, companies that are doing over 100 million, but the leaders of those organizations, this is the biggest company they've ever run, right? And every year it's the biggest company they've ever run. And they really don't level up themselves, right? They're still, it's like they started the business, they were doing accounting, they were doing the marketing, they were doing the sales. Well, they always kind of want to go back to that, right? So, we call it seagull management, right? Fly in and crap over everything. So one of the things that we realize with the coaching side of our practice is we're not going to be able to advance that company unless we're leveling up those key leaders. So that really was the evolution of our coaching business.
Yeah, I would say so. To kind of build on what Doug has said, I see these as the biggest challenges. Number one is they don't have a strategy. Most companies don't have a strategy. In the leader's mind or the owner's mind, there is a strategy, but that strategy is not communicated, which is the second challenge that companies have. So first, there's no clear strategy. Second is if there is any strategy, it's not being communicated to the team. And I think that's because we don't like to be wrong in general, right? If I draw a line in the sand, I tell someone this is where we're going or this is what we're going to do, and then it doesn't happen, well, now I've failed. And people don't, as leaders, I'm sure you guys feel the same way. And Doug and I talk about this all the time, is we're just making stuff up as we go along, right? But we don't want to be found out by our team that we're just making this stuff up as we go along. And that really is the reality of entrepreneurship and leadership. Often is you're wading into waters that you've never been in. So you got to make it up as you go along. Then the third aspect that's really an issue is this finance that you guys already touched on. Like there is, I've been really shocked at the lack of financial oversight, and it's checkbook management. You're managing your business through your checkbook, right? I hope we got enough money this month. So
in the black, right?
Good. And so now we're good. Now we got next month. Okay. Yep. Good again. So I try to have all my leaders create a dashboard of all the money that they have, essentially the work that you do. But from the beginning, because when you see it, it's like, oh, okay, there it is. Or, oh crap, that's what we've got to do. Or that's going to be an issue. But having it is better than not knowing it. But too often it's like that monster in the closet, they're not addressing it, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then eventually it busts the door down, and you're in a lot of trouble.
Well, are they afraid that they don't want to know?
Yes, exactly. That's it. Well, after you go so far, right? If I think I have, something wrong with me, I'm not going to go to the doctor. And then eventually it gets so bad, you go to the doctor and you're not going to like the news. Right. Well, but if you address it in the beginning, you're more likely to have a better outcome.
Well, the other thing that's happened over time too, we haven't had a recession since 2008. So you got a lot of entrepreneurs that have had this, basically 12, 13 year run with no downturn in the economy. So that, if sales are coming in, you can cover up a lot of stuff, right? Yeah, but once things start to turn, whoops, right? So, and once you dig in and get things right, they realize how much money they've wasted the last, 12 years. Because, we advise our clients that, there's no question there's going to be a downturn in the economy. It goes like this, right? So you've got to start preparing now for the next downturn. You got to have cash in the bank. That's when a lot of great opportunities happen. Maybe you're buying a competitor, you're stealing clients, whatever. But
Yeah, so one of the last things that I see is a lack of focus on sales. And I try to encourage all of this is what Doug and we try to encourage all of our teams to be sales-driven organizations. And we talked about unreasonable hospitality, using that as a framework for helping us to deliver value that exceeds the customer expectations, right? That's really what unreasonable hospitality is all about. But if we can get the entire organization in sales mode, sales-driven, following up, answering the phone with a smile, doing what's necessary to ensure that our customers are happy, we're going to be successful long-term. Now, that's not the only thing, but that certainly is the oxygen that is necessary to provide the cash flow that we need to run the business on a day-to-day basis, as you know full well from your...
Yes. And the other thing that's happened too, I think, and I don't know, Russ, we talk about this somewhat, for some reason, people are much more aware that they need help or they need a coach. And, I've seen an explosion in that. They just don't know. And most of our business is referral business, but, I think that's been a big change too. People are actually realizing that it's okay to get some help.
Right.
Yeah. What's the biggest benefit of a coach? I'll tell you my benefit. My biggest benefit that I've seen having a coach for 9 to 10 years is having somebody that I can just be honest with. Being a business owner, like you said, you have your sales hat on every single day, because if you're not selling clients, you're selling your team. So it's going to be one or the other. You're selling your team on how we're going to be successful, how we're going to do all that, kind of like Russ is what you were talking about. You're selling your clients on why we're the perfect fit for you. But when it comes down to it, you don't really have anybody to kind of vent outside of maybe your spouse.
It's lonely.
And really,
it's lonely. It's a lonely place, right? For sure.
Yeah, big time.
So I think certainly from an accountability perspective, and that I know it's a dirty word, it's kind of a long word, but that's the biggest benefit in coaching, is that the coach is going to help you follow through on the plan. So if you said you wanted to do this, then as a coach, my objective is to hold you accountable to executing on what you said you wanted to do. And then if you decide that you want to deviate from that, then why is that? What's the justification? And what's the next mission as a result? So that is, that's fundamental from my perspective, or that's my benefit from coaching. That's what I get. So and of course I have a coach as well, and find it super helpful from an accountability. I don't want to let them down.
Yeah. Doug, do you feel like you're a psychologist a lot of times when you're talking to these business owners?
Absolutely. I think I have. I had a minor in psychology, so maybe that's helped work. But
are you being serious?
Yeah, no, I did. Yeah. So so I always tell the story about the guy that's in the hole, right? He's in the hole, and the priest comes by and, can you help me out of here? And he says, well, geez, I'm going to say a prayer for you, and hopefully you'll get out. Well, finally, some 3 or 4 other people came by and didn't help him out, and this fourth guy comes by, and all of a sudden he jumps in the hole. And the guy goes, what in the hell did you jump in the hole? Now 2 of us are stuck down here. And the guy calmly says, well, I've been here before and I know the way out. Right. So, even if I'm talking to somebody 45 years old, I got 30 years of a business experience on them. So one of the things that's been surprising to me is that, there's obviously situations that I haven't seen, but not many. So we can accelerate their progress so much faster. Right. And I think some coaches are hesitant, just like psychologists are, to fix the problem. What Russ and I do is we're guiding coaching. And if there's an obvious problem there, we're solving it with them, right? We're not letting them just suffer. But, it's like, my dad was, my coach and mentor for years, and he just helped me, he knew where all the holes were, right? And guided me around them. Now, once in a while, if it was a shallow hole, he had me fall in because I was going to learn something. Right. But he kept me out of the deep holes for sure. And that's, I think, what we do. Don't you think, Russ? We keep them out of the big holes.
That's certainly the mission, and really to help them realize the hole that they were in.
Right.
Because when you're in it, it's Groundhog Day. Oh, God. It's good to have someone say, "Hey, do you like it down there, or you want to let's do something different? What do you think?" Oh yeah. No one said that. I was with a guy. He's a leader at a large software company here in the Charlotte area, and we were having coffee and doing a little coaching, and he talked about how he was stubborn, and I said that's just an excuse. You're just telling yourself a story about that so you can continue to do that. So when you don't want to do something, that's what your default is. And he says, "Gosh, you're right." He said, "No one has ever called me out on my shit," and so that was a light bulb moment for him, and he really had a moment of reflection because someone challenged him and pushed back and didn't buy his story, that he'd been telling.
Which is the perfect reason why you have a coach, right? They're going to be honest with you. They're going to. An employee may not be honest with you because they're afraid that if they're honest, they may lose their job.
Right.
Whereas a coach like one of the two of you, you can be brutally honest. Right. If they don't like it, you'll find somebody else.
Right, exactly. Right. But, because what happens is that you don't just talk about business. I mean, we're talking about, their entire life, what's in there. And, these coaching relationships, I hadn't done coaching up until 2 years ago. I mean, you obviously mentor your own employees and stuff, but I really didn't realize the impact and the close relationships you develop with these people, right? I mean, I coached somebody one of the senior executives at Under Armour, and he calls me Christmas Eve. I mean, it's like, that says something about how close these relationships are, right? And so that's been, it's rewarding. Both Russ and I are, we don't have to do this, right? I mean, we could, do something else, but it's the pure joy of helping people and seeing them succeed. That's what really drives us. Would you agree, Russ? And that's what it is.
100%. That is the reason that I do what I do. And obviously why we do what we do is because we want to serve in this way. And it's selfish. I call it selfish because it is so fun to go in and work with these teams and help them put a plan together, hold them accountable to executing the plan, make sure they're communicating the plan, and measuring our progress along the way. And that's another thing that a lot of companies don't do is they don't have any KPIs. It's just, again, we're winging it. We're really winging it. And so I have a series that I did called Turning Pro, where I talk about what we can do as business owners and leaders to turn pro for our businesses, to become professional business leaders, as opposed to just winging it every day. So, but it's a challenge.
Yeah, I got a question for you guys. We've got a lot of clients right now that are in a situation where maybe their pipeline is not as strong as what it was, or maybe they're getting delayed on jobs. And it seems like it's happening in construction. It seems like it's happening in marketing. It's happening in a lot of different areas. How would you go in and help a client or in a situation where my hands are up, my pipeline's not strong. That's why I'm going to have a bad year next year. That's why I've had a bad year this year. How would you help that?
Russ, can I tee it up for you?
Sure.
Well, one of the things that happens with sales, it's not treated as a profession, right? And there's no accountability typically in sales. And one thing Russ is really, this is one areas of his expertise in terms of, how do you make sure that pipeline is full? Are you doing the necessary groundwork? What are the forward-looking, KPIs? But it can be turned around. And Russ, why don't you talk specifically about what you do in that area? It's pretty remarkable.
Well, what most people are most salespeople, well, I shouldn't say qualifies most, but a lot of salespeople are order takers, right? Especially since we've had this great economy, the leads have been coming in, and it's just a matter of, did we get this person a quote, and are they going to order? Right? That's the conversation. But we want to level up our intentionality by having a sales plan, having a sales strategy, and having a forecast, and then holding our people accountable to executing the forecast that we've created. So we want to dig into the pipeline. So when we get in there, we want to dig into the pipeline, understand how real are these? Because a lot of times the companies I'm working with, they let their list continue to grow, and it's this long of opportunities. Well, look at all the opportunities. Well, the reality is that 95% of those aren't going to turn into orders, and they know it. So let's get them off the list so that we don't have the clutter, and just really dial in and focus in on where we need to get the orders. And then I always get the leaders involved. The CEO, I always say, you are the biggest salesperson in this organization. You've got to be on the road. You've got to get on the road. If sales are tight, you need orders. It's on you. That's as the leader, to get out there, get on the road, and do that work. So we really work on the plan. What is the messaging, right? So we need to be telling two stories as salespeople. We need to tell our story in a fun way, so people actually want to hear what we have to say. Maybe 60 seconds, 90 seconds, just a quick, fun story about however in the heck we ended up in this industry. And then the second is we need to be able to tell the story of the business, right? And that's what Christy does so well when she's telling the story of Summit, right? So she's able to articulate that. And when you and I talked the other day, and you laid the story out, I loved it, right? So similar backgrounds, didn't have a whole lot of anything growing up in Indiana, and so I was determined to figure it out, and so were you, right? And so But anyway, understanding that story and telling the story in a way that's impactful, and then just shutting up and listening to what the customer has to say. Mm-hmm. And that's the most uncomfortable thing for most salespeople to do. But ask and then don't say a word.
What do you say? Yeah, and there's really no. Oh, go ahead. There's no silver bullet to that, and it's not you're not playing a game. You're just simply putting it into their, because what's going to happen is the first thing they say is typically going to be their issue, right? For the most part, because they've had time to think now, and they're just not saying something to banter back and forth. They're really thinking, and then they usually come up with the answer themselves. Doug, what were you going to say about that?
Yeah, I think on that sales side, it's like everything else. It's a lot of people issues too. And if you've got an organization that isn't generating the revenue, you're most likely going to be making changes in that department. You just don't have the right people. And because they've been order takers, they got way too many farmers and not enough hunters out there. So, there are very, very few companies we've worked with that there haven't been some people changes. And the other area that I think it's been a little bit of a surprise to me, quite frankly, and it shouldn't have been, is that, I've got a lot of female clients, because they're now in these leadership roles, and the dynamics of what they're doing, just that it carries some additional, I don't want to say burdens, but some additional challenges being in those leadership positions. But I think Russ and I, for some reason, we got all these girls, and I've got 5 granddaughters, so we're a little bit more empathetic, to that. So that's been a little bit of a surprise to me in terms of the mix, of the clients that we work with.
I have a question for you, Jody. When you have a new client and you're bringing them on from a financial perspective, what are the biggest mistakes or issues that you find? Well, I guess those are 2 different ones. What are the biggest mistakes that you see small businesses making as it relates to their finances? And then, so let's just talk about that.
Well, I'd say one of the biggest ones is they really don't even understand their financial statement position at all, and not necessarily on the accounting side, because even some accountants don't even understand that. But what I'm saying is how to read those financials and then how to apply those going forward. And I think Doug, you'd mentioned that very few of the clients that you've had forecasts or budgets or anything like that. And one of the kind of the aha moments is when I worked in the corporate world. I worked for a $250 million manufacturing company, and we had basically it was a 13-week cash flow by day. And so it was 13-week by day cash flow, and it basically had all the ins and outs, and and it basically allowed us, the $250 million manufacturing company, to make sure we had money in the bank at all times, to be able to borrow the line of credit we needed to, and so forth, and use it truly as a line of credit. And when I started teaching clients in small businesses, it was a foreign concept completely, and it blew my mind. It was like, well, why wouldn't everybody do this? It's so simple, right? Ins, outs, cash, But instead, they kept looking at it, and they kept looking at, okay, I got this amount of money in the bank, and I've got this amount of checks outstanding that I remember. Oh, so I'm probably good,
right?
And that's all they looked at, which, like I said, blew my mind. And then they wondered why they'd never grown. It's like, hey, why have I grown? Or if I have grown, I still have the same dollar amount at the bottom. They go from $1 million to $2 million, and they still have that $200,000 bottom line. It's like, well, first of all, that's not a great bottom line for that size of a company. And then why didn't it grow with your growth? And the reason is they didn't have that, even that 13-week cash flow forecast. They didn't have that in play, but they didn't have the longer one. And that's that was the biggest mistake that clients have coming into us, is they never had it, or if they did, they really weren't paying attention to it, because it's like, I always tell the story about the map. If I live in Indiana, I can find Florida pretty easily. I just drive south. Eventually, I'm gonna hit Florida, right? I might hit Alabama first. I might hit Texas, but I'll figure out how to get over to Florida, and I'll eventually get there. But now that you've got the GPS, which is the business coach or the CFO, they can guide you through all that. They can guide you through all the different obstacles you might have, the speed traps along the way. They can get you the quickest path there around the road constructions and all that kind of stuff. And you'll get there a lot quicker and faster. And the funniest thing is that when you have that plan like that, you normally get there. When you don't have the plan, you're still just driving around. You have no idea where you're going. You're just driving around, but you get there. And so when we say, hey, the forecast is not just a forecast, but it's there to set your goals. Hey, if I want to retire in 3 years, I want to sell the company for X amount of dollars. Well, what does it take to get that? Oh, I've got to have an EBITDA, whatever, and then the multiples, the valuation, or whatever. Well, how do we get to that? We got 3 years to do it in, and so that's where the game plan comes in on the financial side. Is hey, here's what we have to do in order to get to that stage. And so it's just simply not having that forecast or that plan in place, which just blows my mind that most business owners don't. And if you're out there and you don't have that, don't feel bad.
Right.
You're one
exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. If that's your situation, no problem, because you're not alone. But
you're the majority.
Make an investment.
Yeah.
What's interesting is we get penny wise and pound foolish in business so often, and I find it around investing in services like your service or coaching or hiring a guide. And then also as it relates to hiring people, where I know. Now I was penny wise, pound foolish a lot in my career, and it cost me a lot more hiring the wrong person than it ever would have had I actually paid the amount of money that I should have in the first place. So
what do you mean by that, Russ? What do you mean by that? The quality of person?
Yeah, so I was looking for someone one of the first hires, of course, was a salesperson for my agency. And so this person, I could pay him $40,000. They were, a couple of years out of college. I really liked him. I thought, he would be a great fit. And but he had no sales experience, and so I had to teach and train him everything, and that took me away from focusing on revenue generation, for one thing, right? So not only did it cost me because I had to train him, it cost me financially because I wasn't generating the additional revenue that I would have been generating had I been in the field doing that. Plus, he's sucking some cash out of the business because I'm paying him, even though it was a low salary. But the reality was, what I eventually started doing is I would go out and find people with experience, pay them $120,000, and then the commission on top of that, and I won every time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm such a ding dong. Now I know. I'll give you one more example. Is we bought a car wash and oil change facility, and this business was amazing. It was doing great. It had a really strong leader, owner of that business, 7 days a week. The guy was there for 10 years. He only took 2 weeks off. One of those kind of people. And but he was high and tight, man. He did a great job. Well, I brought in someone, and I'm like, what? Well, let's got this person happen to be my brother. Let's give him something to do. And I mean, it's a car wash and oil change facility. How hard is it? So we brought him in, paid him $42,000, gave him a little bonus. Well, now I know, hindsight's 2020. The reality is I should have found someone that was in that industry, paid him $120,000, given him a piece of the action. Then we would have had a successful business over the long term. But because I was penny wise and pound foolish, I wanted to keep the cash for myself, and it cost me about $500,000. But who's counting? That was,
Well, I want to just go back to one point too. With this cash flow, Jody, that you made, and I mean, there's little things like they don't understand the balance sheet and the income statement, right? But when you go back and show them, they don't understand their aging for receivables, right? Right. And you go back in and show them, if we cut your receivables down by 12 days, here's the impact of cash flow, and it just blows them out of the water, right? I mean, it's 100%. Just like you can't, you're worrying about all this stuff. You just collect, and they've always got stuff that's been out there, 12 months or 14 months or 16 months. And I went into a company, they had receivables out there 2 years. I said, okay, put a commission plan for the accounting team and give them a piece of every debt they collect. They ended up writing off about $6,000, collected about $400,000. It's just like, here's your cash right there, right? So it's like, it's all those little things. I would say, Russ, it's not any one big thing we do for a company. Right. It's 100 little things that make a difference, right?
The big thing, I think the big thing as guides, what's really cool is we get to help people focus, because that's what we do. When we go into these business, I mean, they're trying to do everything, right? We want to do this and that and this and that and this and that. So what did Steve Jobs do when he went back to Apple? He cut out all of the products that they were developing. And there were hundreds, if not thousands of them. He cut them all out. They got down to what? 5. And those 5 products are what they rode to be the biggest company at one point in time that, from a market cap perspective in the world, a couple $1 trillion of market cap because they focused in. So what we get to do is clear out all the noise. What are the things that are going to move the needle for your organization? And let's get those crystal clear. Let's assign those as responsibilities for people on this leadership team. And then let's move forward for the next year. And we're going to focus on these few things and do them really well. And then we're going to have a business that's going to be, it's going to look completely different when we get there.
I think the advantage of experience is that we can go into a company now and based on, very quickly, we can assess their people, kind of where they are from an operating position, what's their position in the market. We can pretty accurately, I think, predict probably down to a quarter when this thing's going to be totally flipped and humming, right? And because we are, we went from meeting quarterly to meeting, every couple of times every month, we can accelerate that process. So we can turn companies pretty fast, right? And I think that's where the experience comes into play. And I think what's happened a lot in the coaching business out there is you've got a lot of people out there doing business coaching that have never run a business. And it's like, you can kind of teach somebody how to ride a bike, but you've never ridden a bike yourself. It's not going to be the same. You've never fallen, you never got a flat tire, you've never gone up a hill, right? You just don't know it.
Well, what did the relationship with you guys look like? You mentioned like monthly or a couple times a week. Does it start off strong and then kind of gradually taper off to like a monthly, or is it more like, hey, let's meet on a regular cadence every X amount of time?
No. We're meeting every month. So on the off months and even the month of a quarterly, maybe you're having one-on-one sessions with the CEO. Maybe you're having one-on-one sessions with the COO. Someone else, developing leadership team. You're attending L10s. You're available for those emergency calls, whatever they are. And just following up, it might be something as simply, where are rocks now right now for the month, right? Those kinds of things. Initially now, it's okay, I want to be in that meeting where they're going through the variance report, to help guide them. But, for us, people, we didn't change our process because we were so smart. They were asking for it. They wanted more help, right? I think when you're only meeting quarterly, you're not sticky enough, right? And you can't see. I think that's why like the traction model, it's 2-3 years and they're done, right? And I think the clients we have now, Russ, I don't see anybody going away. We're there for the long haul and we're committed. We know their business and we know them.
The key is the mindset that this is an investment. Like the leadership team, they've got to understand this is an investment in the future, just like your services. If they hire Summit virtual CFO, that's an investment in their business, right? It's actually, so from a CFO perspective, if I'm the leader, it's an investment in peace of mind because I'm going to know where all of my dollars and cents are and have someone that does this for a living help me read the tea leaves to identify what moves we need to make to put ourselves in a better financial position 12 months from now than we are today, right? It's having that methodology. But it's really key for business leaders to see this as an investment. And those are the people that we really enjoy working with because they are definitely all in. And again, penny wise, pound foolish. Those people are more difficult to help because they are always trying to minimize and avoid expense as opposed to making investments.
Right. And Russ and I were both, very high income people, right? We knew what we did. And we charge our clients $6,000 a month flat fee. And could we charge more? Absolutely. But that seems to be a sweet spot where our value is easily understood. Like this one client, I've got, with your help, Jody, we're saving them $250,000 next year. I'll be working with them for a month. So it's like, I'm not saying that's like there all the time, but we're going to get create the value, that the people need. So it's real easy for us to, to get in. So,
well, the differentiator is, and the beauty of Doug and I working together is there's two of us.
right.
So we are investing the time with our clients, and that makes it so much fun because he's got experience that's different than my experience. Yep. And so we're able to leverage that and really help guide our clients in a more meaningful way.
So you guys are both on the calls together? Is that am I understanding that right? Or you guys trade off?
We're on the annuals together, sometimes the quarterlies, but then on the monthly, I may be coaching one person, Russ is coaching another.
Right. Yeah, we're doing office hours as well. So in 2024, we're starting office hours where we are going to have a standing meeting every month where we're doing some training on one of the tools that our clients use as part of the Pinnacle system implementation into their business, and then do Q&A. So just answering questions, because what we find is people get a bit overwhelmed when they think about the system, when they think about what we're trying to do, and we just want to really break it down and simplify it for them. So we create the strategy, right? So the strategy is the most important aspect. That's what we do in the beginning, and that's what we do at the end of every year. So we create that strategy. The system is really about executing the strategy. It's the tool. It's really a tool, right? It's like a hammer. It's the tool we use to execute the strategy that we have so painstakingly created. And then with the objective is to build an execution culture, right? So we got strategy, system, execution, and that's how we work with our clients.
Love it. Guys, I could talk to you guys for hours. I mean, this has been a real fun conversation. I looked up and couldn't believe what time it was. And for those that listen to the show pretty regularly, this is the time we come up with something fun to ask. And I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to, Doug, I'm going to put it back to you. I'm going to put you on the hot spot and say, hey, come up with a question for Russ and I that kind of fun, out of nature that you'd love to hear about.
Oh, from both of you guys? I'd like to know one thing from each of you that very few people know.
Russ,
no, go ahead, Jody. What do you think about that? I'm an open book.
Oh, this is terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, so I'm an open book, man. Let's see, what is...
So very few people know,
or something people. How about something people don't know?
I was a model in the 8th grade.
A model? Tell us about this. What do you mean a model?
Yeah, I don't remember how it happened. My mom got me into it somehow, but went and they actually taught me how to walk, how to stand and how to walk, and
that's why you walk funny to this day.
I do. Yeah, probably, right? I'm a little bow-legged, look like I got a pair of boots on all the time. But yeah, so that's something
model.
I hadn't.
Yeah, that's definitely something pretty cool.
I wasn't good at it, but
yeah. So something that somebody wouldn't know about me typically would be, I don't know. I told you about the fact that I sold knives, which is for an accountant, that's kind of weird. I mean, not many accountants could probably even say that. That I dress freaking like a Hawaiian with a Hawaiian shirt just about all the time. And Russ, thanks for showing up today in that Hawaiian outfit. I don't know. One thing I'd probably say, and it's kind of, I don't know if it's not being a model, this type of thing, but I try to work out every day, which is it's been great over the years. I think it's kind of kept me healthy. I wish I would do it even more often. And I say every day, probably 3 times a week is what I typically get with traveling and everything. But that's probably the biggest thing. And I would say, but probably the most important thing about working out is the fact that I've been married for 35 years. So I don't know if most people would know that, but 35 years is a long time to be married. And it doesn't seem like it. It seems like we just got a chance to know each other. And that's the cool thing about that. And so I think working out is a big part of that, because it just kind of keeps your mind healthy. Frustrations, kind of, it just keeps you in that right tune. And as entrepreneurs, you can kind of imagine the hurdles that you go through when you run a business, the ups and downs, and the fact that she was doing the exact same thing, running our own business at the exact same time, which is pretty awesome. So we can kind of lean on each other's shoulders a little bit when things are going down and kind of pep each other up. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing, is just simply being married, working out with two lovable kids and one dog. I put the third one there as the dog, because we treat the dog as the third person.
That's good.
In the family.
So some people may or may not know, didn't you get fired as a CPA or an accountant or something like that?
Yeah, I got fired. Yeah, I got fired, and I was told that I would never be successful in accounting.
I love that story. I love that story.
Called me in his office. Yeah. Called me in his office and said, "Yeah, you'll never be successful."
I know that just makes me gives me goosebumps. I love it.
Well, hey, thanks, guys. How would people get a hold of you guys?
Go ahead, Russ.
How do they find you guys if they?
So ownyourcategory.com is our website. My email address, russ@ownyourcategory.com. Doug's email, doug@ownyourcategory.com. 803-804-6970 is my phone number. Give me a call, text me, whatever, get on my Calendly. Let's set up a time, and Doug and I will have a conversation with you. There's no expectations. We love to help people. And that's the first and foremost. We want to figure out, can we help you? And the way that we work with people is we like to take a month or two in the beginning to really get to understand the person in that we're helping. Because most often it is the leader that decides. They bring us into the leadership team, but they make the decision ahead of time a lot of times. But we like to get, understand, where is that person? How are they personally? How are they from a professional perspective? What are they feeling? And then from there, we can help guide and direct.
I think that's an important point, Russ, is that we don't just jump in right away with a strategy. We want to get to know them and know the business first. We might find after 2 months that, they don't like us for some reason or something, right? And you don't want to jump in that big commitment, get in front of the leadership team, all of a sudden it doesn't work, right? So, we found that to be, and it's a little bit less risk for people to do too. But, Jody, thank you so much for inviting us to do it.
Yes, thank you.
And every time, we're together, I love the conversations. Like Russ and I, we do this all the time, not podcasts, but we go on for hours about nothing, it seems like.
Yeah, thanks, guys. This has been enjoyable, and I'm sure the audience.
Super, thanks.
Appreciate you.
Very much.
Yep, appreciate you guys.
All right.
Enjoy this podcast? Visit our website, summitcpa.net, to get more tips and strategy for achieving business success. We're here to be a resource in this ever-changing industry.